radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right, welcome. How you doing? Fade to Black. Yeah, today's Monday, January 27th, 2025. Let's do this, man. Yeah, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Another brand new week here on Fade to Black. And, I did a long thing earlier today in broadcasting the news saying, how thankful I am. And I just am. I'm just thankful. We've been doing this show for over a decade, thousands of shows, thousands of interviews. And this has been my journey, my trip to college. I have learned so much. And you're right along with me in that journey. If I learn, you learn right next to me. And I'm just thankful for that. It is just an awesome experience. So with that, help support everything that we do around here, which is get yourself a Fade to Black t-shirt. We have 2 shirts. We have 2 ways to get them. Both the links are below. Everything is autographed. Everything includes shipping. We have 2 shirts. You can get a Game Changer membership. Yep. And everything gets, a little gift inside that Game Changer membership. And also order yourself a t-shirt. You can do that. Again, everything is autographed, includes shipping, and the links are below. All right, this week on Fade to Black tonight, Shannon Taggart is with us. We're going to be talking about invisible realms. That is a huge umbrella and a lot of stuff underneath it. We're going to be going through that tonight. Tomorrow night, Lionel Friedberg is with us. He was going to be with us last week. Then we had more fires here in California. Had to move that show to tomorrow night. So Lionel's going to be with us. Wednesday night, Richard Dolan is back with us. We're going to be talking about your UFO world. Well, of course, that means his. Thursday night, AMA, AJA. We do this once a month. Ask me anything. Ask Jimmy anything. Yeah, I'm going to speak about myself in the third person all night on Thursday night. I have 5 major events coming up. Conscious Life Expo, that is next week. It's a week from this Thursday, a week from this Friday, at the LAX Hilton, the largest conference in the world. I'm hosting it again this year, 10 straight years hosting this event at the LAX Hilton. The links are below. Get yourself some tickets. Come and hang out with us. It is an amazing weekend. Right after that is Rise of the Guardians. This is March 29th and 30th, 2025 in Sedona, Arizona. Links are below. The Contact Modalities Expo. This is May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2025. Delavan Lake, Delavan, Wisconsin. Then Contact in the Desert, May 29th through June 2nd, Palm Springs, California. Links are below. And then I head down back to Peru. I'm going to go to Peru twice this year. This is the first trip with Brian Forrester for the Inca Celebration of the Sun, June 17th through the 27th, 2025. Again, the links for everything that I'm doing are below. All right. I'm looking at the show number. Tonight is show number 2105. Think about that. Think about that. If you are doing a podcast once a week, that's 50 podcasts a year. That's a busy schedule. That's what most people do. How long would it take you to get to 2105? Think about that. I have to stop and pause. Tonight, Shannon Taggart is with us. And now we are going to be talking about séances tonight, spiritualism, altered states of consciousness, which is where I will start the conversation tonight. She's got 17 years of research. She's got photographs. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about mediums, voodoo practitioners, and even Michael Jackson might have sought access to invisible realms in their pursuit of connection beyond the physical world. We're going to talk about all of that and much more. Her links are below. For the first time to Fade to Black, Shannon Taggart. Shannon, my voice is cracking. You're going to have to put up with that. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. You get the first time guest disclaimer.
Okay.
That's perfect answer. What, Jimmy, wait, nobody told me about all first time guests get the first time guest disclaimer, which is why I asked you about that earlier. You were going, why is Jimmy asking me that? Because this audience expects it. So here it is. Shannon, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. Now you have to accept so we can move on.
Okay. I accept.
Good? You good?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start. The obvious question is, how'd you get into this? Did you have a weird aunt or uncle? Okay. I'm going to get to that question. We're going to get to that. But the foundation of everything, especially for tonight, but of all existence, is consciousness. And I love it when I get to ask a guest, what is consciousness? What's your definition of consciousness? So we're going to start there so we understand throughout the show where you're coming from. What is consciousness?
I would describe consciousness as the human spirit taking, I think of it more than the mind, than solely the mind. I think it's our human experience, the way the human navigates through the world using their mind and their senses as well. I guess that's how I would describe my human consciousness. I do think there's a group mind, that we have access to, that we all tap into. I think like that we are connected more so than just being individuals not connected via consciousness. And I don't know. It's a mystery to me, really, though. I mean, what do you think consciousness is?
Okay, hey, I'm the host. I'm the one that gets to put you in the tough spot. It's the most difficult question maybe to answer, period. Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody's got their own definition and everybody's got their own concept of it. And when I talk to a scientist or a physicist, they're going to give me one version of it. And I talk to somebody else, they're going to give me something. And I've always found that to be so compelling. And so does this audience, because this audience has their own versions of it too. They don't all agree. How could you? Right? We don't have those answers yet, but we're eventually going to get to them. My opinion, I think it's going to surprise everybody. I don't think it's going to be what we expect. I definitely, I don't know about the hive mind, group mind part of it. I want that to be for sure. But I believe that consciousness is everywhere. And so the earth, right? Okay. Let's go in this direction. If consciousness is everywhere, does that mean that this chunk of meteorite, right? There it is. Does that have consciousness? They say Mother Earth, right? Gaia, right? Is conscious. Well, so isn't this too? Or is it not? And if this does have consciousness, which I think it does, possibly, then we've got some really big issues that need to be worked out. It can't be just us, right? It's got to be everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, I guess I was answering to thinking of myself as how my consciousness operates in the world. And I feel it operating on multiple levels, meaning, I can direct it, I can shut things off and have um see certain aspects of consciousness. I can try to tap into like for example, when I'm around mediums who really are believing in what they're doing and they're really deep in practice, I can kind of tap into it and go along with it and see how mediumship works, but on my own I can't do that. So that's kind of what I mean about and also archetypes and symbolism and things that are meaningful to us as humans regardless of era or race or age. That's what kind of what I was talking about the larger group mind, like these symbolic um aspects or the aspects of meaning that we all kind of can relate to.
Hmm.
I do think that belief and the way that we use our minds plays into how our reality unfolds. And also that's why I love photography so much, because I really do feel like photography is more than just taking a picture. You are embedding your thoughts or your consciousness into an image in a way, because you're observing and creating at the same time. And the observer is always present. In photography, we call this term the photographer's eye,
Hmm.
which,
Hmm.
even the most pragmatic materialist photo, class, even if you're going to just focus on shooting glossy images, we talk about the photographer's eye, which means that I take a picture and you immediately would know that it was mine. Or, I often use the example, I've I worked as a professional photographer. I have worked for like 25 years. So, for example, I'll be on a red carpet type situation. Not that I did that much, but I have. And we're
Hmm.
all on the same line and have the same camera and the same lens or very similar. But, sometimes your pictures are just drastically different than the person next to you, and there really is a mystery as to why that is. The play of time and light, and then somebody else's consciousness through this black box. I think it's really fascinating, and it's something I try to play with in my work. So I guess what I'm saying is I think photography in and of itself there's some paranormality to it. And so then by approaching the paranormal with a camera, it's a reflexive process which actually amplifies the strangeness of photography. And
Yeah,
so,
I saw this documentary. It was a series, and I think it was PBS a couple of years ago. Anyway, in a nutshell, maybe you've seen it. I'll describe it because I don't remember the woman's name right now. But a few trunks full of photographs and negatives were acquired in the Midwest. I think it was around Chicago.
Vivian
And the guy
Meyer.
that what? Yes, 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 yeah.
I
Oh
am a I
my,
am a pure photo geek, so
oh
I don't
my
think you can
God.
stump me on photo.
Right, right. I'm so glad. Okay, so in going through that is one of the most incredible stories. I actually learned from that, right? Okay, but anyway, her ability to get into somebody else's bubble and
Yeah.
snap a picture at a moment when anybody standing at that same place at the same time is not going to do what she did. And I'm going through, and I know you did it, and especially when they did the gallery retrospective at the end, right? And they had
Mhm.
everything, they were framing everything. I wept. It was so good, right?
Yeah.
And and probably I'm not you're gonna agree, she's not the greatest photographer that ever walked the face of the earth. And we almost didn't know her name. How incredible is that to be able to capture to invade somebody's bubble like she did, right? Everybody somehow she got them to go, okay, go ahead, right?
Yeah.
And just, but she did exactly what you're talking about, didn't she?
Yeah, she was a nanny, and she would go around with the children, and she always had her camera, and she was always obsessively documenting, her days, or the travels around the city, or just little bits of life. And she also did a lot of very dramatic and beautiful self-portraits of herself with the cameras. But yeah, so that is pure, like, passion and observation, and thinking about the world. And um, photography is not only capturing reality, but it's transforming reality. And I believe our minds, or our consciousness, is embedded in the photographs we take. And what I love about photography is that it kind of, I don't know, I mean, it's made it I've learned so much from it, but it just makes you so present in the world, and you're really observing the world. And then you're seeing the world rendered in 2D. You're taking it from this massive space, and then flattening it, so you're seeing it. It's almost like a reality sandwich. And I'm just photography is my first love, and I'm totally fascinated by photography. And I loved photography, was obsessed photography before I ever got into any of the paranormal or spiritualism or mediumship that I encountered. So I really start as a photographer.
Do you believe, because of your experience with photography, that our earth, our universe, our everything is recording events, that everything is captured? And that's how possibly mediums work, and reviews, and maybe ghosts are images of the past that are just captured in time.
I do think that's part of it. In spiritualism, or in other like new religious movements, there's this concept called the Akashic records, right? Which it says that everything that ever was, or ever happened, ever was said, is somehow recorded here. There's a record of it somewhere. And I think that reality isn't just our present moment, or what we can see in the material world. I also think the past is part of reality. And sometimes it injects itself into the present, and that's what haunting is. And I do think that some aspects of mediumship definitely have to do with time. And um, it could be somebody's memory of something being projected, and a medium's picking up on that. I mean, sometimes when you watch a medium work, it feels like they're playing with time in a weird way, like they're somehow able to time travel. Other times it feels different. Other times it'll feel like they are really talking to somebody who is actually there, but you can't see them. And I don't know what it is. I still, I started out with questions, and I don't have any answers. I just have more questions. So I don't pretend to have the ultimate questions. What I do have is a lot of time observing and thinking about these processes. And I do think the time and the past and the future have something to do with it. And it makes sense to me that everything everything that ever happened is present with us somehow. We see time as like a straight line, and it's very convincing. I mean, you see what it does to your body over time. Like, you see it in yourself, you completely transform, and you can't go back. I mean, that's a very compelling process, but we're only privy to uh that, like, a very little about how time actually works. And
No,
I
we're
think,
always in the now. We're in the now,
yeah.
right? And right now, then is now then. Right
Yeah.
now, right? And when you look at like I do, I have a lot of watches. I'm a big watch guy. Automatic watches, right? Nice Swiss, with a second hand that's going pop, 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 right? And you look, and as an observer of time in that fashion, you really become aware of, okay, the past is now the past. Oh, it's the past now. Oh, now it's the past, because it's always ticking and it's never running backwards. And that's a bizarre position to be in. And if we didn't have watches or cell phones or clocks all around us, would our perception of time in a linear sense be there? Because the ancients didn't have it that way.
Yeah, lately I've been thinking a lot about I listened to an interview, it was a Jeffrey Mishlove interview recently with the professor who talked about how he had a car accident, and while the car accident was happening, and I'm sorry I don't remember this, man's name, but he recently wrote a book, but when the car accident was happening, he felt time slow down, and he was able to navigate the accident and kind of make it less bad, or, like, not as bad as it would have been because of his reaction, and he said what it was maybe, a few seconds, but it felt like minutes. But these 4 seconds felt like minutes, and he was able to navigate through them, and somehow he perceived time in a different way. And I've also been thinking about in sports, like the really excellent athletes they talk about they can somehow
They play in
slow
slow motion. Yeah.
yeah, they slow down time. Like our perception can slow it. Or when you're in full attention, you don't know what time it is, right?
No, it's
Like,
true. It's true. And with the smaller the being, the smaller, the slower time is. That's why, and that's just the way it works. So with insects, you get to really small insects, like a fly. We think a
yes.
fly is really fast. We do, because we can never catch up to them. That's not the case. You know why? Because us to a fly's looking at us and we're going, as we swing that fly swatter at full speed, right? It's coming through the air like this. And the fly's like, okay, all right, I'll fly now and take off. That's the reality of it. They completely have a different time scale than we run on in our reality. This is not on another planet, right? This is the way that nature works.
Well, yeah, and another thing I'm absolutely obsessed with, but I don't have, I have very low resolution knowledge on it because it's so complicated, but black holes.
Mm-hmm.
We know in black holes that time behaves completely in a different way than it does on Earth. So we have an example of in the universe of time and time and space, like, completely transforming. And also there's this I'm obsessed with the surface of the black hole because there's this type of radiation that supposedly makes a recording of anything that would go in it. So if you view it from far away, you would see whatever went in it, even though it wasn't there anymore, which is like a type of recording. It's a type of radiation that they theorize about. And so I'm just kind of fascinated with what a black hole has to do with a camera or a seance room or these, like, black spaces where and what can happen in darkness when observation is thrown off. That's really what a seance room is. It's a sensory deprivation situation, and time behaves differently. People have
And
different.
that's what you're right. You're right. And with a really good medium, and I've got friends that are really good mediums, right? They're really good. And there's one thing that all of them have in common. There's a lot of shysters out there too. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that anybody that has medium on their business card is a good medium. But my friends that are good mediums have one thing in common. Their lights are on. You can see it, right? They are observing in a way that I don't, right? They see things that I can't, and they understand that. I don't know if it's a gift, if it's training. I don't know, but the good mediums, their eyes are just lit up. They see things differently, don't they?
Yeah, I many mediums that I have met, they come to it through trauma, and it's common. It's not for all mediums, but like let's say childhood trauma or the loss of a loved one, or some sort of thing that makes them dissociate, and then they become sensitive to other aspects of their mind, other aspects of reality, however you want to describe it. But a lot of people would classify that as bad, but it's actually quite healthy that we can survive by using such mechanisms, and they seem to bring or near death experience too, like whether you want to see that as trauma, but many people come back very different from a near death experience.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It, what I enjoy about, and Jeffrey Mishlove, by the way. Okay, can I share a Jerry Mishlove story with you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm much older than you are, like by probably 4 decades. All right, I am. When I was a kid, I'm in my 20s. This is in the early 80s. All right, so we're talking 40 years ago, and in my little journey that I was on, exploring these ideas that we're talking about right now, I was 21 or something. I get handed to me some videotapes. There used to be this thing, it's called videotape. You had a VC, and it was tape, and you pushed it in and hit play. Yeah, it was crazy. And so I get a stack of these Jeffrey Mishlove videos. All right. And this is 85. And I pop it in, and there's Jeffrey doing his public broadcasting thing or whatever, UHF. And I thought, this is the most brilliant person like in the world. And I got addicted to him. And I was going back to my friend, you got any more of those Mishlove tapes, man? You got any more? And so years later, I reach out to him, and he goes, "Yeah, absolutely, Jimmy, love what you're doing. Yeah, man, let's do something together." I was like, "Oh my God." And I don't have problems meeting my heroes. I don't. I'm in a good position. I can do that. Meeting him freaked me out. It was so cool.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And he's done the show a few times now.
Yeah,
And
I'm a super fan. I am a super fan.
he's just amazing. So, but he has a way of talking about consciousness and near-death experiences and the connectivity of the universe, the philosophical side of this, which I don't buy into, but he has a good way of and getting into these intellectual minds and having a level playing field for the conversation that we all understand. He's got a gift for that. He's so smart, and he's able to sit down with these brilliant minds and make it so we understand what he's talking about.
Yes. And his archive, I mean, it's just astounding all he's done for so many years. I've learned so much from his shows.
Yeah, he's great. Now, seances. Okay.
Yeah.
What is your definition? You started to tap into that. Let's go back. What is a seance?
So, there are many types, and I guess the classic, the word séance, it's a French word, right? And we often think about like Victorian England when you think of a séance, but the séance is actually an American invention because it started in 1848 with the Fox sisters in upstate New York, and they were the first mediums, and the first seances were on stage in Rochester, New York, which is also the home of photography, or like the grand central of the photography.
Kodak and everything.
Yeah. And actually those seances happened on the very same street as Kodak. So there, I love all the analogies between photography and spiritualism. There's like a lot of strange synchronicities, but so though that, initially it would be, sitting in the dark at a table with the medium, you would want wrappings. Eventually it developed into mediums who were considered powerful would be studied by scientists. And so cameras were always welcome in seance rooms. That's why, it's not that strange that I photograph spiritualism. A lot of times you'll hear people who do other ritual work, like, people who are magic practitioners or even voodoo. It's rare to allow a camera, but spiritualism a camera's always been part of the whole thing because they want to create evidence and record and understand. And spiritualist seances are kind of trying to merge religion and science and learn about, the rational and scientific aspects of all of this, right? So, but now, there could be a healing seance, there could be a development circle. Sometimes they call seances circles, where everybody would sit in a circle and take turns giving readings to one another. Sometimes mediums sit in these boxes, little stage-like boxes called cabinets. And sometimes they use a red light. Sometimes they're in complete darkness. Some mediums claim they can produce ectoplasm. That is this, substance that takes form and takes shape and shows itself and does fantastical things in the seance room. It's a very complicated history. Of course, we know many mediums were caught cheating. Some were never revealed to be cheats. The truth of the matter is those two things intersect in very uncomfortable ways. And
Can we stay right there for a second?
yeah.
Okay. It was certainly a fad for a minute, right?
Yeah.
And the ability to capture ectoplasm on camera in an image was like a big deal. There are thousands and thousands of images of that you can go and when you do your research and go down that rabbit hole and you see that part of it, okay, I love it, but where is it today? Right? Why is ectoplasm no longer a part of our mediumship seance world now? Or is it, but it's been replaced by something else?
Well, it is. I mean, what happened is that
Have
in
you
the
seen it yourself?
well, yes, I've photographed ectoplasmic mediums. And
What?
yes,
Really?
there's one, and what I discovered is, a lot of mediums, some mediums will say, "Oh yes, ectoplasm happens in my seance," but you don't see it, or it's invisible, or it could be, it's like the term used for the energy. Uh, but other mediums produce just like in the vintage images, but this is a newer. It actually came back in around the mid 2000s. This new age of physical mediumship started, and it was largely inspired by. Have you ever done anything on the Skull group?
Which one?
The
Mine?
Skull. No, there was a group called the Skull Experiment in England in the 90s.
Yes, of course. Oh, that was amazing. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so Robin Foy of the Skull Group, he really wanted to save these old school mediumship he wanted to bring back physical mediumship, and he started a group called the Noah's Ark Society. He was like a co-founder of that. And there were people trying to bring back, these seances that try to invoke physical phenomena such as ectoplasm. Although they came up with a new theory of ectoplasm, he tried to develop this energy-based type mediumship, and they claimed that all of their phenomena was energy-based and not ectoplasmic. But anyway, not to get off topic, it inspired a lot of people to experiment with physical mediumship again. And there are a few mediums who go around and do the classic ectoplasm seance, and they are very controversial. Not all mediums, um, many mediums believe that that's the way of the past and that we don't need darkroom seances. We don't need to do ectoplasm. Others say it's been part of it since the beginning. And, it's a wonderful way to show that the worlds remain connected. And so ectoplasm is this paradoxical substance that's both spiritual and material. And so it's a big debate. A lot of modern mediums don't like ectoplasm, and they don't want anything to do with the mediums who are producing those type of seances. It's a big, many mediums just work clairvoyantly in just a light room, no darkness, nothing, it's very just normal, just switch of consciousness. But in conversation, you would never even know that anything strange was happening if you were just observing with your eyes. So yeah, there's a lot of different types of seances.
Okay, but how did you capture it?
So there's a chapter in my book. So my book is titled Séance, and there is a chapter. There's one chapter on the most controversial medium in the world right now, who is a German medium named Kai Muge. And he was the first he was the first medium where I went in his seance and I saw ectoplasm objectively, meaning in seances, a lot of times there'll be subjective effects or, light induced effects. Like there's a thing called transfiguration where you sit under a red light and everybody, you can see, it's as if their faces are changing.
Yes. What's his name?
Kai Muge, it's German with an umlaut, but if you spell it in English, it's Muegge, Kai Muge. And he was being studied by Stephen Browdy. Have you had Stephen Browdy on? Or
Yeah, I
his
know
work?
who this. I know who Kai Muge is now. Yes. Yes. Okay, so continue. So you go, and you said objectively. When you
Meaning
what do you
we
mean?
all saw the ectoplasm. Like it was just like those vintage images just jumping to life right in front of my eyes. Like very, very, very shocking, very dramatic. Um, very
And what
ectoplasmic.
was it? Did you meet him?
Oh yeah, I've worked with him closely. I think he's a
Okay,
fascinating
are his
person.
eyes on, like I was describing earlier?
Yes, and the most amazing thing about Kai is that he can really speak and articulate a lot about mediumship and why we do it, and he's really one of the most fascinating people I have met. And so what I did in the book, so it's a lot of my photography, but the back section is it's like an index. It's like a story index. So every picture has a story. And I just let Kai explain ectoplasm and why he does it and why we need it. And, you know, he believes that it is healing to try and merge the physical and material realms and to get out of our own heads. And he was in a big scandal in 2014. He's had a lot of back and forth. Right now, there's a new scientist named Eckhart Cruz who is doing a movie about Kai. So the ectoplasm, the ectoplasmic debate continues, believe it or not, in our era. And
Love it. I do. I love it. But see, here's the thing with everything that we're talking about. And I want to go backwards next, but there is so much about us and nature that we simply don't have any idea about. And I think that we used to. You know what I mean? I think that the ancients, before technology, before distractions, before the Kardashians, before all of that, what did we have? We had our minds and our friends. Okay? And we understood how to use it correctly. And we just let go of it. Shannon, we just, we'd rather have and I do want to talk about technology and everything too as well, because this numbs us down, right? In the wrong way. It could make us better if it was used in the right way, especially in the paranormal world, but it's also, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
That we
I mean,
are now just distracted?
that's what I loved about, being in seances and studying mediumship, or being in a circle where it's like all of that stuff is a way. I mean, I guess that's not totally true, because we do use cameras and recorders, and there's a whole other aspect of mediumship that interacts with technology. But for the most part, when you're trying to train as a medium, or when you're doing a darkroom seance, you're just tuning in ways that you don't normally tune in, and you're taking your imagination seriously, and you are you are reframing your own mind in a way. Like, if you take a mediumship class, for example. Now, spiritualists believe that anybody can do mediumship. And, it's like playing the piano. Some people can, are Mozart, and other people can play chopsticks, but, everybody has this ability. So, but when they walk you through the process, and, I've been through this process where they just, okay, well, what's coming into your mind? And you're kind of forced to take it seriously and kind of go with it and see where it goes. And oftentimes there's really shocking information comes out, like, for example, I'm not a medium, meaning, yes, I think I'm an intuitive person. And as an artist, maybe that's part of related to being intuitive, but I had never done mediumship. And for example, one time I was in a circle, and I was at this spiritualist college, it's called Arthur Findlay College, and it's outside of Stansted Airport near London. And it's kind of like the Hogwarts of spiritualism, like, literally. And so I was in this course, and I'm sitting with a woman, and you're one-on-one, and you have to give this person a message. And I told her, I'm not a medium. I'll try. And so you just sit there. And because everybody else was doing it and no one was judging me, I just like closed my eyes, and I told her, I see a stamp. I see a wax stamp. That's what I saw in my mind's eye, was a wax stamp. And she's like, go on. And I just said, well, I see that it's the stamping that's, I described it. And she said to me, I am the only I forget, I think she was from Denmark or the Netherlands. I don't remember what country, but she said, I am the only person who owns a wax stamp company.
Shut up. No. Really?
Yes. And so maybe that's psychic, but then she said, I teach mediumship and you're doing well. Go on. And so she started coaching me, and it ended up into this message from her grandfather. Like, that's where it led me. So
did you freak out? I would have.
No, I actually found it kind of thrilling. It was
okay. Were you thrilled? Let me put it to you that
it felt very positive and very exciting. And very natural, and it was strange
But
because
that's exactly what I'm talking about right there. There is something going on that we clearly don't understand.
yeah,
And it's a paradigm shift when you get not you can read all the evidence you want. You can hear people's testimony. You can go through all that. That's fine. That's fine. It's when you have your experience. That's what's really cool.
oh yeah. I mean, you could talk till you're blue in the face about this stuff, and unless you have an experience, it's not going to really matter because uh there's parts of, you have to have the experience there. You can't put it, and that's really I've met so many people who are like, I was a total skeptic. I never thought I'd be in a place like this. And then, my husband died and I saw his soul leave his body right in front of my eyes and I didn't know where to go. So I came here. I've heard a lot of stories, or especially women who lose children. That's always,
Yeah.
that's
Let's not
always,
go there.
yeah.
It's the classic line, that's always out there. I'm not even going to say it because I'm a parent. I don't know if you are, but I'm a
Yes,
parent.
I am.
And yeah, okay. So you understand whenever media, and it could be a book, it doesn't matter, whatever the media is, starts to touch into that subject, I have to turn the page. I stop
Mm,
watching the movie. I stop watching the TV. I can't do it. I can't
yeah.
do it. I can't do it. It is so true. And I can only imagine. Absolutely. You just said trauma causes a lot of this. Well, let's have some real trauma. Let's have that trauma. Right. And
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. Now let me back up. It's the verification. And so for me, now I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to pretend to, but I was sitting with a group of people in the dark outside many years ago at one of conferences, my conferences. And we're outside and I'm looking across this field. I'm sitting in a chair. I'm like eating a bag of Doritos or something. And it's like midnight, 11 o'clock at night. And I'm just in the dark. And I've got like maybe 100 people around me also in the dark. We're sky watching and talking to UFOs and doing whatever. And I see Shannon, as I live and breathe, way out across this field in the dark. I see this gray orb, this gray, come out from behind these trees, float up, and then get really big. It's I don't know, it's a couple of 100 feet from me, but it lands down in the middle of the field and it's giant. It's like 30, 40 feet tall. And I'm sitting there like this, go, wow. And I rub my eyes. I'm like, I got a floaty, you know. And I open up my eyes and it's still there. This lady standing behind me right here with her family. She goes, does anybody see that gray orb out there in the field? And I turn to her and I go, this shit is real? What? And I could hear everybody to my left in the dark. Everybody's murmuring because they all see it too. And that's orb pictures, people talking about orbs or what. It's a big whatever to me, but it's when you see it, when you have the wax stamp moment. That's all you need, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, you have to have an experience in order to, and a lot of people, some people will have the experience and then explain it away. Um, so it doesn't always, some people just can't, like, they can have it in the moment, but then, oh, that was just, I've seen that a million times. Oh, that was
Oh,
just
they'll explain it away. Of course. Why
yeah.
not? You know what? You got to protect your psychosis.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
yeah,
totally get that.
and that's what, learning about this, it's not for everybody, and some people just, um, it is a distortion of consciousness, and some people need their boundaries very clear in order to keep themselves feeling sane, and so, um, I do think mediumship is not for everybody, you know. But I do think that know it does help you understand your own mind a little more, like feel its abilities and its power. If you can, it kind of made me think of my imagination in a whole different way. More so, and so that I connected that to like art practice too. But even more so, it helped me deepen my creativity for sure. And that's very positive, has been very positive for me.
Is there a difference between the magic and the knowledge from, say, ancient Egypt, ancient Sumer, um, China, eh, and Victorian England, for instance, or Germany? It doesn't matter. Here in North America with the indigenous cultures, and then what's going on in the Caribbean, or throughout Central and South America. It's all. Is it all the same thing?
Um, well, I think there's different practices, but one thing is for certain is that throughout time in every culture in every era, people have claimed contact or communication with the dead. It's we're our culture, our like academic media, everyday culture is the anomaly in the sense that we deny it or think it's nonsense. So we are the anomaly, you know. And so I just I can't I'm just
What do
not
you
that
mean by that? What do you mean by that? We are
well,
the anomaly.
we are the anomaly because we say none of this is true. You have to be crazy to I mean that is the I know a lot of people do believe, but the standard line in academia and in the media is that this stuff is not true, you know.
But spirits say the same thing. A ghost of a boy just ran through my studio right now. I felt his presence. He just ran home to his mom and said, "I just saw a ghost." It's this dude sitting in the studio with all these guitars hanging, and his mom's like, Quit making shit up." Okay. All right. You know what I mean? It's all perception, isn't it? I always try to flip it over to the other side when you hear so often the voices of those that are trapped in the in between, lost, not knowing where they are, right? And that's a and them looking and seeing us, we would be the ghosts to them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, that's called so I know mediums who have done that kind it's called rescue work, right? When you help, the when they don't understand that they're dead, is that what you're
Well,
to
I would assume that would be the case, unless you have somebody telling you that you just died. How would you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's different too I think there's different types of ghosts too, because some of them, some of the classic stories are just the same woman in the same dress walking down the same hallway again and again, and she doesn't seem to see you it's almost like you're seeing a recording.
Hmm.
And then there's other experiences where people feel an intelligence or feel an interaction. Um, and then there's, so I think there might be different types of ghosts too.
Yeah, I do too. My house is haunted. I'm not going to get into the details of that. It's a new house, but it's haunted. And the hauntingness of it has chilled out. It went through over the last 4 years some pretty crazy moments where there was just a lot of stuff going on. And I wasn't hit in the head with a book or anything, but close, right? There was just like weird stuff. I was seeing things and hearing things, and stuff is getting moved, and my friends are seeing it, and I just learned to accept it. But what's really strange is it's all kind of chilled out.
That's really
Like maybe,
interesting.
yeah, maybe I wore them down. That I didn't tap out. You know what I mean? I didn't give in.
Did you just move into the house?
I did 4 years ago. Yeah.
Well, so that's really interesting because I'm actually writing something about this very topic right now, where I had the experience where during COVID, I moved in, I left New York City, and my husband and I moved into his childhood home, which had been empty for a number of months.
Oh, that place is haunted is all get
And
out.
I mean, his
Yeah.
parents,
Okay.
they were, it was kind of in the process of like maybe they moved because they had moved and they were going to maybe sell the house, and it was, they were snowbirding, and it had been empty. And then because of COVID, it had been empty for a number of months, and it was really spooky in here. And now it's not, and so I made
Right,
a series of
right.
pictures when I first moved in, just trying to get at that spookiness. And the house feels really happy. I think it likes us being here. I mean, and again, to speak to what you're saying about energy and matter, and whether things have presence, or we feel like the house is very happy, and it doesn't feel like that at all anymore. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, but it's weird how for a minute there, for about 2.5, 3 years, I'm going to say it's chilled out in the last 6 months, but for 2.5 years, it was nuts. It was all day. It was all day. It
wow,
was something going on. And it has complete. Have you seen? We're going to head to a break here in a minute. Have you seen Nosferatu?
I haven't seen it yet. Is it good?
Yeah. And um, here's the thing. We all know the story. Okay. All right. It's sort of the story by name and, general, but oh no. No. This is such a play on your head. And it's so well done. And it's done with the music and the score and the visuals. And so, and you don't find out, I don't want to give anything away, but you can tell. Has nothing to do with the plot. But there's color in the movie, and then there's black and white in the movie. And when black and white is playing on the screen, it's a dream. Okay. But it's big chunks of the movie. And so it's steering out of reality back into dream and you don't and it's represented in the way that the dream is so vivid and so real that to the person having the dream, and we all do this, it's real while you're having it. We all know what it's like to wake up out of a vivid, dream like that, and you wake up and like, oh, it was just a dream. Well, Nosferatu jumps in and out of these realms, these parallel worlds very effectively. It's very well done. I mean, yeah, I was like 15 minutes into the film, and I'm not into that kind of stuff. Horror film, Dracula, vampire, whatever. It's not my thing. I heard it was a masterpiece, so I wanted to see it. I was about 15 minutes in, and I went, "This is excellent. This is a level of filmmaking that is at another level that most films never get to. It's excellent. It's excellent. I'll throw this over to the chat room. Who has seen Nosferatu? Who has seen it? It's incredible. So yeah, it's a fun watch. And the other thing with everything that we're talking about right now, very cleverly is woven into the storyline. It is. It's really well done. You'll dig it. It's like, oh
I'm
yeah,
no, I'm definitely gonna watch it. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
yeah. The problem that I have with it, I live alone. So when you watch a scary movie when you live alone, you're just asking for trouble. Right? You're asking for trouble, man. And yeah, that's I'll admit it. Sometimes I can be a scaredy cat. I'm weaponized here, but sometimes I can be a scaredy cat. And and I don't why voluntarily scare the crap out of yourself. And that's why I was afraid of watching Nosferatu alone. But I've watched it twice now. It's excellent. Oh man. So well done. Best ending ever, too. So well done. Yeah, so well done. All right, Shannon, stay right there. We're going to take a break, everybody. Shannon Taggart is our guest when we come back. In 2, we're going to talk about voodoo. That's right. We're going to do all that and much more. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Beckley Teppy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut.
Today we're headed to Bolivia, Tiwanaku, Peru, and of course, Pumapunku. Brian, exciting. Thank you so much for everything, my friend.
Always an honor. Right behind us is the sacred river of the Inca that goes past Machu Picchu. So we're going to be driving up to its source at 15,000 feet above sea level and then down to Lake Titicaca.
So today we hit 15,000 feet.
Yes.
Crazy. And you can do it with us. All you have to do is go to hiddenincatours.com. Simple. We've got 2 tours coming up next year, one in June for the summer solstice, right? And then another one right here in November. So hiddenincatours.com. Come and hang out with Brian and I and his amazing team.
Right on.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com.
All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Shannon Taggart is with us talking about the other side, parallel worlds, extra dimensions, consciousness, seances. I want to jump into some voodoo, but before we do that, Shannon, I'm on your website.
Yes.
I'm looking at these portraits.
Yes.
Can I pull them up and show them to people?
Sure.
Okay. Well, it's on your website. It's kind of public, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, I don't mind.
You have a great smile, by the way.
Oh, thank
You
you.
hear that a lot, don't you? You do. Yeah, you do. Hopefully your husband isn't listening to me right now. He's going to come in. That's it. Interview's over. Are these straight images?
So the portraits, in a lot of my seance work, I started to play around with long exposures.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to see, I basically spent 4 years trying to experiment with different ways of using time. And I did a portrait project. So that was from this portrait project where I was trying to experiment with time and how that created portraits of people. So that's what you're gonna
Okay,
show.
but this is all done
It's all in
by
camera. It's
you.
not,
It's all
yeah,
in camera. This
yeah.
isn't any, and I hate using those words, so I'm not going to say what people say all the time. But there's nothing here. These are just the images, right?
Yeah, they're just a product of my shutter. So they're long exposure portraits. I'm using a tripod in motion, and sometimes I'm using things over the lens. So I'm experimenting with layering different layers of reality.
So well done. Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody, I'm going to pull this up. I don't have the individual file, so you're going to see the website page. This is Shannon's portraits page from her website. The links are below. And also, we've also got everything up in the chat room. Okay, I'm going to pull up this first image. These are just really, really great. And
Thank you.
let's take a look at this. What's going on here?
So that's one of my dear friends, and I've done a lot of portraits of her. Her name is Ginger, and I was just doing a portrait of her, and there was a door in front of her, so I just moved the door, and it's a reflection that went over her eyes.
It's crazy.
But to me, there's just, and so what I love about doing pictures like that, when you're playing with like moving things around and doing motion, and you can never really anticipate how it's going to render. So it's using motion and time and long exposure. It was my way of incorporating chance into the portraiture, because I'm not really that. I've worked professionally and I've done a lot of straightforward portraiture, but I wanted to devise a way of making portraiture interesting to myself. And
Do you do
also,
both? Do you do film and digital?
yeah, I started off with film. I was trained in a dark room, and in 2008, I think I was shooting film until 2008, I think. And then
What's
I
crazy?
switched.
Kids today will never know, but I grew up in a dark room, right? And so I did color. I did mainly black and white, but I also did some color stuff too in the complete darkness. But so in black and white, everybody, yes, you've got the red light on, you got your timer, but you've got your trays, you've got your fix, your developer, and you're going through in the different ways of achieving exposure with how long you let stuff sit in different trays and how you dry. That's an art. That's an art. And I'm so glad that I was, trained and went through that for years. Something that is just missing now, and maybe
Yeah,
it'll come back full swing. But yeah, but this is
I
an amazing
think,
photograph.
yeah, I am glad I was trained in a darkroom, because I do use Photoshop, but now I use it as a digital darkroom. So I only do things that you can do in the darkroom, but I do them in Photoshop, like, burning and dodging or adjusting the color. But that's
Mhm.
it. I don't composite.
Okay, yeah, that's tasty right there.
Yeah, that's just that's my friend Bex, and she just moved her hands. I just had her move her hands.
She looks like an artist.
She is. She's actually a wonderful ceramic artist
You
in
can see it.
LA.
Oh, she's out here in LA?
Yeah, yeah. She's on Instagram, BX. Bex. She does beautiful pottery. That's Ginger again, my friend Ginger.
That's a great shot. How long
Yeah,
is that exposure?
you know what? I'd have to look. I don't know. It's probably a second. I don't know.
Yeah.
She just we started to do pictures and I took a few and then that happened and she said, "I think we're done." And I didn't plan it. I just what I love about like the play of the motion and the long exposure, like I said, it's just I don't anticipate how it's going to come out.
One more second, you could have had the exhale too as well. That might have been cool. Okay.
Now that is one woman. She just I had her kind of move around, and so it's kind of like seeing a doppelganger, seeing your own doppelganger, but it's just one exposure and one person,
Yeah, it's a
Angelique.
spooky image. That's a spooky image, isn't it?
Yeah.
Years ago, that type of exposure and that kind of photograph would have caused quite a stir, wouldn't it? Yeah,
Yes.
that's an amazing shot too.
What
That
I
almost
love
looks like 2 different people, doesn't it?
Yeah, what I love about that picture is I think she looks like she goes from old to young. Like, it's almost like she's older and then she moves into a younger person.
Yeah, yeah, it's right there. Wow, that's a great shot.
Thanks. And this reminded me of, like a Catholic saint. I don't know, something about it reminded me of, like the flames of, there's that one saint that she's, like, in purgatory. There's something about it that made me I was raised Catholic and, so, Catholic imagery is, like, really, important to me,
And that's
and
just a picture.
yeah,
Wow.
it's, I think,
You
sometimes
don't
I'll
have to give away your secrets, but
yeah,
that's just an image.
it's an image with motion and light.
Wow. Huh. What's
Yeah,
going on here? That's like
uh
it's like Whistler's mother.
oh, yeah, also, too, I was living in New York at the time, and I was just, like, friends or friends of friends, like, I wanna do portraits, I would just somebody would this was a friend of a friend, um and I made the appointment to go and photograph her and I didn't know her and I didn't tell her what to wear or anything. So that's part of the surprise, like it just showing up and people wearing what they're going to wear and then me just kind of impromptu, usually at their place. So it's a place I didn't know what it would look like, um and so yeah, she just wore that and I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing, amazing wow.
Now that's one of the ones that I didn't use motion, I just used light, but I love it because it almost looks like the reflection of a man over her face, so very,
Huh.
graphic, but it's just using light and shadow.
Wow. Wow. I am such an amateur.
Now this, I just it felt very like UFO abduction to me. That's what I love about this picture, but it's just a woman walking down a staircase.
No, that's a cow abduction. Wow.
That's my cousin Hannah.
Wow. Wow. Renaissance art, right? The modern version, the technology driven version of Renaissance art. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
And that's just, light streaming in, so it's orbs, but it's orbs, made from flare, lens flare.
That's really good.
And that I love that picture because it looks like his head exploded.
It's exactly what it is.
And then
Wow.
yes. And that actually that is a voodoo priest that I knew, and I met him after work, his day job, and I said, I want to do a portrait of you for my portrait project, and he showed up wearing this very business, looking very business. He had just left his office job, and I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do here. And he just waved his arms, and he looks like an angel, and I just love that.
What is voodoo? Is this something that there's a misconception?
So, when I lived in Brooklyn, I knew that there was a Haitian community, and I was very interested in voodoo because one of my all-time favorite artists, the filmmaker Maya Deren, she very famously went to Haiti in the 40s, I think, and was trying to make a film. And she ended up becoming a mambo and writing a book. It's called Divine Horseman. Joseph Campbell wrote the foreword, and he was one of the supporters of the book. And so she, and I love her films. I love all of her art. And she said she tried to make art about voodoo, and it was such an art in and of itself that she just had to become initiated and study it. And so why I wanted to photograph voodoo is because, I'd spent a lot of time photographing spiritualist mediumship, and a lot of it's very, people going into trance and having experiences with spirits. And I wanted to see how voodoo was different. And it was different in every way. And I actually had to even photograph it differently. So I ended up doing like flash photography when I was photographing voodoo. But it's very visceral and fast and action oriented and very performative. Like the ceremonies are very almost like these huge theatrical experiences with live music and dance and food, and like totally, you have to catch it. And the Mambo Rosemary Pierre, who has just recently passed, unfortunately, but the woman Mambo Rosemary Pierre, who welcomed me and allowed me to photograph in her temple, she would say, I don't know why they still stay still for you, but they do. Like, it's very unusual. And so I was allowed to make some pictures, and it was a comparative project. I really wanted to understand how it was different from spiritualism. And
How is it different?
well, in spiritualism isn't, so they don't believe. It's actually very funny because anybody who calls spiritualists a cult or say terms like you're doing necromancy, they think that's absurd because they see themselves as pragmatic, like rationalists, like this is part of the Enlightenment. It's just an aspect of humanity. It's natural law. It's totally so there's
It's
nothing.
of the earth. It's of the earth.
Yes, and in spiritualism, there's nothing hidden. There's no secret initiation. There's no ritual. There's no magical practice. They're not like doing ritual to kind of invoke change. Everything in spiritualism is just to kind of make the connection and to create proof that life, this is not the end, that death is just a transition, and that we're still connected to the spirit world. And it's always to bring forth healing and guidance. Where in voodoo, there's different, they'll do healing. They'll do like some people will marry spirits. Some people will ask for love. One of my experiences with Mambo Rosemary was I was interviewing her about voodoo, and I asked her, do you use dolls? Do people in voodoo use dolls? And she said, yes, I use dolls. And she went into her closet, which I was never allowed to photograph her in her closet. And she brought out a white doll.
Did
And
you get to see inside the closet?
No, I was
Okay.
not allowed
All
in the
right.
closet. So,
All right.
I saw the white doll, and it had there was hair on the doll, and there was writing on the doll. And she said, a woman, the woman came to me, and her daughter ran away. Her daughter was missing. And I said, bring me her hairbrush. And so she made the doll and put the hair on the doll. And I said, you come back to your mother. And I said, did she come back? And she said, of course.
I buy every word of that. And so did you. So do you, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, unless she was,
Yeah.
And then she put the doll back.
Now what? Okay. I really enjoy, I don't want to say the wrong thing here. I enjoy the image of voodoo. Okay? There's a thing about it. There's a thing about it. We look at that. There is a pop culture version of voodoo that I think fascinates all of us. But it also at the same time scares us because we understand none of it.
Yeah. And I mean, I was never initiated or anything. I was a lot of times people will pray to the spirits for health or healing, or they'll make a petition, and then in the season they'll celebrate that they call it the Loa. So these are the spirits of voodoo, the pantheon of spirits. And so then you would have a party and a cake and celebrate. And actually, like, one of the first things I photographed in voodoo was a wedding. And it said,
where was this? Where was this?
In Brooklyn. Yeah.
Oh, so you weren't in the Caribbean.
No. But they did go back. The group from Brooklyn would go back, and some people would be initiated in Haiti, and that's like a whole lot other process. So I was not privy to that.
And it's not just Haiti, is it? It's the Bahamas, it's Puerto Rico. You know what I mean? This is a Caribbean thing. It's a Caribbean thing.
Yeah. There's but Haitian voodoo is different from there's a lot of different denominations or different types of practice. And of course, you have hoodoo in the US, and
what's hoodoo?
I don't know how to technically describe it, but I think it's like a mix. It's like a mix of voodoo and root work and
you remember Labyrinth with David Bowie?
Yes.
Okay, you remember the song they sang? They're dancing around. Voodoo, hoodoo, you do. Remember that, don't you?
Yeah, I haven't watched that movie in a long time, though.
Okay, all right.
I have a vision of him with his with the haircut.
Yeah.
But basically, that was a comparative project. And you know what I was so shocked by is when I first started going, I said, what should I read? And they told me, you should read Maya Deren. And I loved that because, Maya Deren was, a Russian Jewish American filmmaker, and she went and they revered her book. And now I even heard on one podcast, and I forget who it was, but it was a show about spirit marriage, and that Maya Deren is considered a beloved dead to some voodoo practitioners. So she's high up in the spirit realm for in voodoo now. So
yeah, I had a guest on. Maybe it was about 6 months ago. I'll have to refer to the chat room who the guest was, what the conversation was about. About people that marry the dead.
Yes, it's probably the same woman. I'm drawing a blank on her name. I'm so she's a PhD from I think she's in California.
Yeah, we're zeroing in. Yes, that was my guess. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't remember her name.
I
She's
don't
great. I've
I
met her in person.
Yeah, it's worse for me because I'm the show host and I had her on and I can't remember. But yeah, right? And I remember, us talking about that. She's like, "No, this is a thing. This is like."
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So I was, my first event that I was allowed to photograph in, Vodou was, they invited me to a wedding, and I this is how ignorant I was at the time. Like, I didn't really understand that, somebody was going to be marrying a spirit. So, Mambo Rosemarie comes out in the wedding, as Ursula Frida, and, in the pink, and she comes out and, marries the man, and I'm going, "I know she's married." What? Then I got yeah, so you can marry a spirit, and oh god, I really feel bad I can't remember her name
Oh,
right
come
now.
on,
It's driving
Jessica, Bill, John, one of the 3 of you, who was the guest that we talked about the spirit marriages, uh,
I
6
have
months ago? It'll pop up here in the chat. They'll take care
okay,
of it. They'll take care of it. They're
okay.
much smarter than I am. I'm just the doofus behind the microphone. Why is it that, now I lived in Panama for a while.
Mhm.
Uh, I was just in the Bahamas. I spent a lot of time in Miami, a lot of time in New York, in different parts of New York, and I've been to New Orleans many, many, many times, and Santeria, Voodoo, and this type of I'm going to say religion, this type of magic or whatever you want to call it, is is practiced, and it almost to me it's a tangible thing. It's a real thing, um, and you can feel it in the culture with the people that are around it, can't you?
Yeah, yeah, and when I was saying there's also, I think in the Dominican Republic, they practice the 21 divisions, which is like another form, and then, uh in Puerto Rico, and in Brazil, there's spiritism or spiritismo in, Puerto Rico, which is then some of the indigenous practice mixed with American spiritualism or spiritualism that became spiritism through France and then came through the colonies, so that's, like, what is practiced in Brazil. Yeah, so there's, like, a lot of different blurring and different practices coming together, but, American spiritualism is pretty different.
Do you think that and we were just looking at your photography and talking about voodoo and these other practices, that the internet and the internet of things um, can amplify and connect people consciously and spiritually like never before, and some of them or many of them may not even know it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what
Let
I
me give you an example. Let me give you an
yeah,
example. So right now, you and I are speaking to 100,000 people,
mm,
right? But we don't see their faces, but they're listening to the words and they are getting into the subject. It's theater of the mind. And now all of them are connecting to each other too, as well, funneling back to you and I. And so it's almost like manifesting and being able to, but it was never like this before. You can have a séance with a bunch of people in a room, right? But now we are able to do this globally. If you did a séance, and people do this all the time, on a Zoom call, right? And you've got 10 people in the circle, but how many people watching? That's a connectivity that's never been possible.
yeah, that's interesting. I actually did some experiments with online seances during the pandemic, and I photographed the screen. And, I got some really interesting results, and then I found that, I think in the '70s, some researchers were doing things with video conferencing, and they did feel that video conferencing did kind of, like, amplify certain, psychic effects. And so I've talked to mediums because, in the pandemic, a lot of people started experimenting with meeting up on Zoom for spiritual work. And
Mhm.
a lot of now people keep that as one thing they do, and they do it live too, but they say it is different. There does seem to be an intensity to bringing everybody together in the video
Absolutely.
conference. Yeah.
I don't think there's any question about that. Whether you hang on, whether you're a singer in a band, you're the front person. When you go out on or if you're a speaker, right, and you're just out talking, lecturing, but you've got 5,000 brains focused on you on stage, you receive that.
Yes.
You follow me?
Yes.
Now, so if we back up and take that same concept, let's go back to 1940, 1935. The radio is suddenly broadcasting across the country. No visuals, right? No TV. It's just the mind. And you have 30 million people, 30 million, right? All listening to the same radio broadcast at the same time. All of them getting the crap scared out of them, right? Maybe it's something like that. Or it's a mystery theater, or it's a spy thing, or whatever it may be. But what happens at the same time across the country? Consciousness and emotions. Boom, boom. Right? All at the same time. That has got to be able to be measured and quantified and justified and repeated. But we never had that ability before. This is a new thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, the technology and technology experiments are something I'm interested in, and I did try to do some of those, some experimentation in the book.
What
And
did you find? What did you find?
um, I found that a lot of it was intention, and when a lot of the spiritualists would bring in technology into the seance room, they were being playful with it in a way that, if you're a professional photographer, you would never approach the camera the way that they were shooting with it, or, there was a freedom, there was a DIY kind of playfulness to the way they were recording, or making video, or taking pictures. And I found that really exciting. And they were kind of tuning into the glitches, when the technology would misbehave, and kind of zooming in on that. And uh, I became really fascinated with that, like when technology misbehaved and they were finding meaning in that. And so that, I mean, that's different than what you're saying, but I think there's a lot of different ways to play with media and technology, and experiment.
Well, then there's something that happens in the middle of all of that, in what I'm saying and what you're suggesting here, right? And you know what's in the middle? Whatever it is that we're trying to figure out knows how to get into technology to communicate and to be seen. And I find that part of it fascinating, that maybe there's a scientific aspect to this, something electromagnetic, or, some energy there that is able to absorb itself into our technology to be heard or to be seen and to communicate.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I've worked with EVP researchers who've played me some really compelling stuff. I mean, a lot of that, it's vague, or, you're not really sure what you're hearing, but sometimes it's extremely clear and extremely fascinating. And one of my closest friends I've met on this paranormal journey is a woman named Donna Sinclair Hogan, and she got involved in EVP experimenting because she received a voicemail from her brother-in-law 3 days after he died. And she called it, this was in England, and she called, it was a digital voicemail, and it was time-stamped with 3 days after he died. And she called the company and said, there's something wrong with your system. And they said, no, there's nothing wrong. And she's like, well, I have a voicemail that has the wrong timestamp. And they're like, that's impossible because we actually have really like accurate clocks, and they're calibrated daily. And the only way we'd have that a bad timestamp is if the whole system went down, and it hasn't done that in years. And she said, well, I received a voicemail from my brother-in-law 3 days after he died. And the guy on the other line said, this isn't the first time this has happened. You should Google phone calls from the dead. And that was not the response that she was expecting.
Have you heard the message?
No, I haven't. She does. That's another.
I don't know
thing.
if I'm not going to Google search that.
But I mean,
EVPs freak me out.
Yeah, because a lot of them they're scary sounding. She's got this
Desperation, fear.
And I don't know. I guess there's different ways to look at it, but she's got this EVP that just every time I hear it, it kills me because she's in the bathtub, and she's recording, and she said, oh, I'm in the bathtub, I'm making a recording. And she said, and she had a face towel, and she launched it into the toilet to like put it in, put in the toilet. And there's a voice, and she's like, oh, I'm throwing this, and it cuts in. It goes, got it in the toilet. Like that. I mean, it's really, what does that mean? There's a creepy man spirit watching you bathe. I don't know what to say about that.
Wow.
I mean, it's really terrifying.
I was doing a TV show with Susan Slaughter. Do you know Susan?
No.
She's a great medium, and great friend. Anyway, we're doing this TV show, and we're doing a ghost hunt in a police station, right? And we're underneath the police station in the evidence tunnel. It's weird, but underneath in this basement, there's this long tunnel full of this evidence. Anyway, we're down there, got a camera crew, sound guy with a microphone, right? And there's 3 of us, and we're doing an EVP session. This is like one of the first times I've done a real one. Anyway, so we're in this tunnel, and it's dead quiet. We're alone. And Susan's like, okay, this is a good spot for an EVP. So like behind us is a camera guy, in front of us is a camera guy, and we've got a third sound person, right, with the microphone, and the 3 of us. And so I'm asking questions, and our other investigator that is with us, he's holding the recorder up, and he's stopping it and starting it. And we're listening to it, and then I ask another question, but we're the only ones down there. And so we're doing like 15 seconds of silence after I ask the question, right? You can hear a pin drop. We're in the basement in this dark. Anyway, so I asked this question, and the question doesn't matter. So I asked a question like, so do you like vanilla or chocolate ice cream? And we play it back, right? It's dead silence. So, do you like vanilla or chocolate ice cream? Well, that's why God invented 2 different flavors, man, so you can have choices. What? It was just like plain as day. And I peed. I like it was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I could never experienced that, where you can see it all day long on TV, but when you do it yourself and yeah, that's crazy. There's something, and I don't know what it is. I think it's electromagnetic energy or something that's, the magic of technology is sucking this stuff in.
Yeah. Have you ever played with the ghost box?
Oh, many times. Oh yeah.
So I mean, so I've seen those talk back sensically just, answer questions sensically, just by taking bits of the radio. And there's been several times where, I mean, just really, really shocking, really shocking. Like, uh, you know,
The Estes method is also very good.
oh yeah, that's really intense.
Yeah, it's intense. It's intense. I've done it many times, but I've always been the person on camera asking the questions.
Mm,
Okay. I've never been the victim. I've I don't know if I could do that. And every time when I see whoever it is take off the headphones and watch the PTSD that they go through. I mean, that's traumatic what they go through. I cannot imagine where your imagination is going through that.
yeah, it's very intense.
Yeah, it's intense. Just last night, all right, just last night, I listened to a lot of I like nonfiction history books, and I also like stuff about UFOs, but I like physics, ancient Egypt, whatever. I don't listen to storytelling. I don't listen to, you know what I mean? I don't
Mhm.
listen to fiction. Anyway, I just like the facts. I'm black and white pragmatic. And last night, there was a chapter in this book, and I was sleeping, and I woke up feeling really strange. And I listened to what's going on in this chapter. And the chapter was entities contacting people in their bedrooms. Not entities contacting people in the middle of the street. Not entities contacting people while they're driving their car. Not people being contacted by entities in the shopping mall. No. In their bedrooms, right? Which is your sanctuary, right? Right? Technically, kind of your safe space, right? Isn't it supposed to be that? It was one of the most terrifying things I'd ever listened to. My light turned on. I did. I turned around. I turned that thing on. Bink. Touched that thing and said, I can't listen to this. And but I did, by the way, with the lights on, case after case after case after case of these different experiences of something that they didn't know. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't your mom, your sister, right? Your dead dog. It was entities coming into people's bedrooms and making contact. It was terrifying. And that's an example of exactly what we're talking about, right? That invisible realm, that parallel world, that other reality that's right next to us.
Was it sleep paralysis stuff?
Well, that I've done. No, that's not what could be. That's not what this chapter was about. This chapter was people talking about their experiences.
Yeah.
But yeah, sleep paralysis is another frightening part of this.
Yeah, I've read and heard a lot about that. And I've never had that experience, thankfully, but I do know some people who have, where you get woken up and you see the shadow people or the
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Have you seen a ghost?
I have seen a ghost once, but it was not in a séance. I mean, meaning, I've had experiences in séances, but so this is what happened. I was in my apartment in Brooklyn and I woke up in the middle of the night and at the end of my bed was a closet. And in the closet, I had a dresser in there because I didn't have a lot of space. And I had my clothes hanging and I woke up and it was probably around there was a little bit of light coming in from the street light. I mean, it was probably like 4 a.m. And I saw what I perceived to be a young man, but he was dressed as if it was from the 70s. He was wearing basketball, like a only I can describe it as like a Harlem Globetrotters type outfit, with the socks and the the whole outfit, but from like the 70s, like a 70s basketball player, and he had a basketball on the side of his body, and he was like hiding behind, and I could see his hair sticking up like above my dresses, and it was as if he was hiding, and I felt terrified, but I also sensed that he was just as terrified of me as I was of him. And I thought, I can't handle this. I just laid back down and went to bed. And I woke up in the morning and there obviously was nothing there, but it felt like a time, like as if it was a time slip for him or something. Like he looked like he was from the 1970s. There was something very like not like that's how I perceived him.
What was it,
And
vivid or was he fuzzy?
he was it was hard to see, but he was pretty solid as if he was there, and I felt his presence. When somebody's in the room
Oh,
with you and you can feel them.
sure.
And
It's happening to me right now. So, but was there motion?
no, but he had the basketball on his hand
He didn't go behind did he move behind your dresses?
No, it was like he was just there hiding and terrified. And, if it had been another era, there were basketball courts in my neighborhood and yeah, who knows, but it felt like a time slip or something. That's what it felt like. But, I could have been half dreaming, maybe I was still in a dream state and somehow I was part of a waking dream, but I felt very awake.
I don't
I
know how you
felt
went to sleep with him still there. You're
Oh,
good.
I was so I just said, "I can't handle this. You have to leave, please." And
Right.
I just laid down terrified and then fell back asleep, I guess.
Around the corner, for those of you that have heard this story before, I apologize, but it seems appropriate right now. So here in my studio, okay, see this wall behind me?
Mhm.
Okay. So if you go out that way, which is in this direction, right? There's a door. And then you go down that hallway and then make a left. And then you go down a hallway to the north side of my home. And down at the end of that, so you go up and back. So after the show, so at the end of that hallway, there's a bathroom on the left. And the bathroom itself, the door is not flat on the hallway. It's angled in, the entrance to it. So if you're walking down the hallway, you almost wouldn't see it. But then you turn and then you see that the door is angled in. It's not flat on the hallway wall. But at the end of that hallway is another studio. It's a music room with drums and amps and more guitars. Yes. And so that sits down there. But that room, that studio, has a double door, not a single door. It's got a double door that opens like this. Okay. All right. After the show, I'm going pee-pee. Follow me? I walk out of this studio. I go out the door, turn left, and I walk into the bathroom. When you stand in the bathroom where the toilet is, there's a mirror. And in that mirror, when you look into it, because the door behind you is angled, you can see the double doors over your shoulder. Dig it? Right? So over my shoulder, I see the double doors that are open. Okay. So I walk into the bathroom. I turn on the bathroom light and I look at myself in the mirror. Everybody does, right? Of course. As I'm looking at myself in the mirror, in the double doors behind me in the music room, a frigging shadow person walks. right past me. And it goes just like this. Just like that. And I screamed. And I saw it too. See, the thing, it wasn't like, because I'm looking into my eyes, right? Standing in the bathroom. This thing happened right over my shoulders. I'm looking at it. It was the crate, and I screamed, and I fell backwards onto the door. And I mean, I let it go too. Right. I just let it go, man. And I bounce off of everything in there, right out of a movie. And I stumble out. I go across the hallway, and I flip on the hallway light, and I look through the double yellow door, and the room's empty. Of course it was. I wasn't expecting to come face to face with Nosferatu or something, but it was crazy. And I saw it. It was the motion too. It was crazy. It was nuts. It was nuts. Yeah. Kind of hunched over a little bit.
Wow.
Pretty tall, because I'm 6 foot and I'm looking into my eyes, and this thing just went right over my shoulders. Just,
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And you know what? I wish you could see it right now. If I could point this camera down there, you'll see that house is lit up like a Christmas tree at night. There's no darkness in here. I do, man. I do. I keep it lit up. But although I'm okay with it, and looking back, I was pretty scared. I mean, I screamed but I didn't get hurt. You know what I mean? Nothing physically happened to me. So what choice do you have but to just live with it? I'm not going to bring in, Father O'Malley of the, and have this place, what do you call it? Blessed?
Yeah, or cleansed. You could have it
Cleansed. I'm not going to
cleansed.
do that. I think that'll just piss somebody off. But it was physical. It was real. It was like a real thing. I didn't see through it. It wasn't transparent. I didn't see any features. It was just an outline, but it lasted too. It was like 2 or 3 seconds.
Wow.
I looked at it. It wasn't out of the side of my eye, peripheral, but no, I looked right at it. Yeah. Pretty freaky. Now you've got a symposium coming up in July in New York.
Yeah. Every summer I host like a 2-day massive symposium in Lilydale, New York, which is the town which is home to the world's largest spiritualist community. It's near Niagara Falls, like about an hour from Niagara Falls, Buffalo area, in upstate New York. And it's this year we'll have Robert Schneck talking about like how to build a haunted house. We have Victoria Nelson, who wrote this great book, Secret Life of Puppets. We have Eric Davis, who wrote the classic book, Technosis. There's a number of speakers, and I'm going to host a spoon bending party. I haven't listed the full lineup, but that's coming in a week. But the last year's lineup is still up on my site if you want to see it. But I send updates. I have a mailing list on Substack, and from my website, shannontaggart.com, you can easily sign up for my free announcements, and it'll be July 24th through 26th this summer. So I'm really excited about that.
That's right. Isn't it great for somebody like you that has the research, but also the interest in the subject, that the public outside of our community now will buy your books, will have interest in this. It doesn't necessarily have to come from inside this community, because there you're just preaching to the choir. You're not converting anybody. But society now is just open to this more so than ever before.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time, and people are definitely more open to. Oh, another thing. One of the topics we'll cover this summer is one of my all-time favorite paranormal stories. I wonder how you feel about this, Jeff the Talking Mongoose. Do you know that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
So I have Christopher Joseph, who wrote the book about Jeff the Talking Mongoose. That'll be one
Right,
of my.
right.
That's one of my all-time favorite paranormal stories.
Well, what do you make of that is one of the all-time greats for sure. What do you make of that? Do you think is it reincarnation or is it something else?
I have no idea. That story is so strange. You mean all of it or just Jeff?
Well, but yeah, right. But no, what I'm saying is their um consciousness, I think, can reside anywhere. The soul,
Mhm.
somebody's personality can reside anywhere and use anything to speak through and to reach out. I really believe that. That's why that story is so good. I there's no reason to discount it. There's
Yeah,
not. Did
yeah.
you see Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No. What's that?
Gotta get with it, young one. You got to get with it. It did win the Oscar for Best Picture 2 years ago. You do know
Oh, okay.
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh
It's
gosh.
about what we're talking about tonight. Anyway, you
Okay.
should watch it.
I will.
I'm being a real dick right now. I don't mean to be.
No, I will. I will.
I'm trying to be funny. Well,
I'm
anyway,
thankful for the recommendation.
well, it's about the story is basically the relationship between a mother and her daughter that gets a
Mm.
little messed up. And daughter kind of splits pissed off, okay, into another reality. All right. In the end of the movie, not to give the rest of it away because it's unexplainable, but in the end of the movie, they make up. They do. And you know how they make up?
Hmm.
Their consciousness is inside of a rock. And these two rocks, these two boulders, are sitting next to each other on the edge of a cliff, like the Grand Canyon. And they're just talking to each other. Hey, Mom, what's up? How's your day going? Oh, it's going pretty good. All right. And there they are, the two rocks, just talking to each other. And I think that's exactly when we talk about all of these different paranormal and supernatural situations that happen like this. Energy and consciousness is a funny thing. I don't think we understand it.
Yes.
And
For
who
sure.
can tap into it? Yeah. And who can tap into it and what makes it real? Well, Jeff the Talking Mongoose, I gotta say, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's pretty it's one of the great paranormal mysteries. That's for sure.
What about the sailor bear in Miami?
I don't know if I know that
The
one.
teddy bear, the haunted bear. He's dressed like a sailor.
Oh,
Come on.
okay. This sounds vaguely familiar.
Oh, come on. Everybody, what's the name of the
Oh,
bear?
yeah, and you have to go and yes. Is
He's
it
in a
in Key
museum.
West?
He's in a glass case.
Yes.
He's got a sailor hat on.
Yes. I do
Come
know
on.
that story.
Bill, give me what's the bear's name? What's the bear's name? Come on, you guys are too slow. Jessica, give me the bear's name. Robert the bear.
Yes. See, now
No,
I want
Robert the haunted doll. Yeah, that's it.
yeah. So I also wonder how much of us thinking that the doll is haunted adds to the haunting, you know?
Well, yeah. But look, if you manifest it, okay, here you go. Okay, hold on for a second here. I just love this. Okay, I'm going to pop this up right now. The internet is just amazing. It's this new thing. It is so clever. You can just look stuff up and then find it. It's absolutely, Shannon, I'm telling you, it's going to be huge, this internet thing. Okay. We'll end on this. Let's go. And I gotta say, if you're going to be a haunted object, then you might as well be something like Robert the doll. I mean, no question about it. Right there.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole thing right there.
Yes.
And the stories behind it. You remember in Jaws, the shark had doll's eyes. Dark, deep black eyes like a doll. That's what you get right there.
Wow.
Soulless eyes. Dark eyes. Shannon, great show. Thank you so much. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'd love to come back.
Now, Shannon Taggart, everybody, all of her links are below. We've got them up on social media, over on our website, and in the description box below. Shannon, thanks for scaring me tonight. I'm gonna have a good time trying to get to sleep. So behave and be well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Perfect night. That's a perfect night. Great way to start the week. And then tomorrow night, again, Shannon's links are below on our website and throughout social media. Tomorrow night, Lionel Friedberg is with us. I'm going to ask Lionel about this tomorrow night. I saw a TV series last week, knowing that Lionel was going to be on the show. And the TV series, I'm going to bring it up to him tomorrow night. The TV series is about a book written by Leon Friedberg. Yeah. And so I'm watching the TV series, and it's excellent, by the way. But I see the book, and I see the name on the bottom. I went, is that Lionel? It's Leon, spelled the same. So I'm going to ask Lionel about that tomorrow night. Now, he's an award-winning New York Times best-selling author, prize-winning author, filmmaker. We're going to do all of that tomorrow night. We're going to continue tonight's discussion with him tomorrow. It's going to be tribal shaman, and you. All of that and much more tomorrow night. But until then, all I've got is Go Back, Lee Tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy.